Okay, so hi boys and girls, welcome to this week's video. Last week we read a story, if you remember, about a troll who didn't like fish. And I said this week I would show you how to make some yummy scones that you could have with your adults in the house. So you'll need a little bit of help from them because I've already preheated the oven till 180 degrees, okay? So the oven's on, it's preheating, so you'll need some ingredients next. So we will need 225 grams of self-raising flour, and I've already measured it out and put in a bowl because it just took a wee bit longer the last time when I made cookies, remember? You need 55 grams of some cold butter, because I'll tell you in a minute why. The cold butter, and 25 grams of caster sugar, or normal sugar is fine, but caster sugar as well. And we will also need, I don't want to tip it, but it's milk. We've got a little bit of milk. It says on the recipe 125 millilitres of milk, but I just add milk as I go until it's ready, so I'll show you how to do that, okay? And I have also got a tiny half a teaspoon of baking powder, but you don't really need baking powder because you've got self-raising flour. It will rise. The baking powder is there just to help. So we need a big bowl first, and we're going to add our dry ingredients into the bowl. So you need your flour. Also, to point out, I've already washed my hands, so before we even start, wash your hands. I'll add the sugar next, and I'll add a bit of baking powder, but again, you don't need it. If you don't have it, then that's fine, it doesn't really matter, it will rise anyway. Okay, so I'll empty the rest of that in, and as you can see, it's all in a bowl, and I'll just give it a mix. You can mix it with a spoon, I've got a spatula, it doesn't really matter, as long as it's all mixed in. Okay, so next comes the butter, and this is where it gets a little bit messy. So we put the butter in, and we're going to put the flour on top, like this, and we need to use the tips of our fingers, if you remember, like we did in nursery, and we're going to rub the flour into the butter, or the butter into the flour even. So if you keep going, you need to rub it until it's tiny little pieces and looks like breadcrumbs. So you can get an adult to help you if you don't like getting your fingers all messy, but I know the boys and girls enjoy doing this. And we did it last time. And this is why we need our hands nice and good and nice and clean, because we don't want dirty hands in our scones, do we? Anyway, so rub it in. This is where we go. And I'll show you a wee trick. If you can't find any more lumpy bits of butter, you have to hold your bowl and give it a good shake on the table, and that will bring all the big lumps to the surface, onto the top. Okay, so once this is all rubbed in, the butter, and that's why we have to have it cold, because if you have it warm, you'll not get breadcrumbs. And the heat of your fingers when you rub it in kind of melts the butter a little bit into the flour. But that's why we do it with the tips of our fingers. We don't do it with the palms, because then it would just all melt into a big mush. So we rub it in with our fingertips. And once it's rubbed in and you've got a nice breadcrumb like mixture, I'll show you. So it looks like breadcrumbs now, okay? Once it's all rubbed in, you make a little hole in the middle of your bowl, okay, like a little well, and then we are going to slowly add the milk. So you don't pour it all in at once, because when I did it the first time and I followed instructions, it was a wee bit like we'd added too much water to Play-Doh, because you're going to make a dough. So we're going to add the milk in a little bit at a time, and then we're going to mix it with, sometimes I use a knife, the edge of a knife, but a spatula or a spoon also works. So this is where your adult might need to help you as well, okay? So I'll use my big spatula and I get my milk. I'm sorry you can't see this, it's just the way the camera's added. So if I do that, you can see, oh, there was a hole in the middle. And then add a little bit at a time. And then you mix, mix, mix. And then we don't want to add too much milk because it's going to end up in a big dough ball, just like it would look like if it was Play-Doh. Need a bit more. And then we're going to roll it onto the table, or the tabletop, and I'm going to use a rolling pin to roll it out a little bit flatter. And I have a cutter, but I think it's a bit small, so sometimes I just use a kind of small bowl, so it doesn't matter if you've not got a cutter, a kind of pastry cutter in the house, that's okay. A wee bit more, so a little bit at a time, and I'll mix this until we're ready. Oh, I think that's us, because I feel as if I've added a little bit. No, okay. So I would love for you if you could send us some pictures of your scones if you managed to make these, or even your biscuits like the last video. That would be nice. Okay. So when it gets a little bit tough, like this, I just go in with my hands and make sure, and you can scrape it off the spoon or the spatula. And I give it a wee mix. Okay, so I've still got extra milk, so I didn't need it all, so that's fine. And this is where you need a little bit of space, because you need to put some flour on the worktop, because we're going to have to roll it out. Okay, so, and a wee bit sticky. Silly me, put the flour away. Okay, so sprinkle it up just a little bit, because I know this is the favourite part of the boys and girls. They like to sprinkle the flour everywhere. So this is what it should look like now. Big bit of dough, and then we'll put it on the tabletop, and we don't want to knead it too much, because I'll see if I can move this down. There. So we don't want to knead it too much and get some flour in your hands, because if we knead it too much, then all the air will go out of your dough and it won't rise properly. So I've flattened it slightly, made it into a wee ball, and then a rolling pin, and just roll it slightly, and then turn it. We'll get your adult to help you with this bit, and then you can do the next bit, because the next bit's just as fun. So you don't want it too thin, so it's still as thick, okay? And then you can use, I bought these cutters but they were too small, but I can try it, or we can use a bowl. Will that work? I'll try it. No. Let me see. Okay. No, just make the cutters. And also indecisive. Cut it out. And I've already put some flour on a baking tray. So we'll place it on the baking tray. And then find a new space and you push down. As I said, you can use a wee bowl, but if you use a bowl, you'll need some help to get it out at the other end, because sometimes it got stuck the last time I did these. And it's good to make them all kind of roughly the same size, because then they'll cook the same. Okay. And then once you run out of space, you just mush your dough all back up together into another ball. And you can do the same again. Okay. pause that just now. Okay, so that's mine all cut. So I've got 2, 4, 6, 8. So I've got 8 all together. And if I've got a little bit of milk left, so my hands are clean, so I'm just going to put a little bit of milk on the top, and that kind of glazes them over. Just a little bit. So these go in the oven for about 15 minutes, I would say. But it's always good to check in the 10-minute mark to see how they're going. And if they're raised and a lovely golden brown on the top, then you should be done. So I'll put these in the oven. This is where you need your adults' help as well. So remember to wear your oven gloves. And you can set a wee timer and see how they got on. So that's them at the oven. I checked them at 10 minutes and they weren't quite ready, so I left them in for another 5 and they still weren't quite brown enough, so I left them in for about 17 minutes. But again, it just depends obviously how small and how big they are, but I'll let you have a look. So there we go. They're slightly risen, which is okay. This one, that was the leftovers of the dough, so that's fair enough. Again, if you want to make them bigger, you can. I've made them small just because that was the size of the cutter we had, but you can roll it into balls, give it a wee press down if you don't have a cutter, or whatever is up to you. So they're still hot, so be very careful, and because of the flour on the tray, they should be easy enough to pick up. So I'm just going to put them on a plate, and that should be us. So once they're cool enough, you can cut them in half, and you can have them with butter, with jam. And if you get any cream, you can have them with cream as well. I like mine with both jam and butter because I'm just a wee bit greedy. So I'll move this out of the way. That was hot. So yeah, these are our lovely scones. I hope you enjoyed. Okay, so I will see you again sometimes next week for another video, my lovelies. But until then, take care. Mwah.